this video, we're going to talk about the German work culture. If you're new in Germany and you just got a job here, congratulations. Life here is pretty awesome, but there are some things you should know about how Germans like to work. And in this video, we're going to tell you I think we have 10 on our list. Hey, I'm Jen.
And I'm Yvonne.
And we're from simplegermany.com, where we help expats settle into life in Germany more smoothly. So I have invited Yvonne, who is my German wife, and she's going to give us some insight into the German work culture. So let's start with our first point on the list, which is punctuality. So Germans are very known, obviously, for being very efficient and very punctual. Would you say that's true also in the work culture?
Absolutely.
And what is punctual for you?
Well, so that's where it begins. And that's where also some Germans might disagree. So when I say absolutely, I mean the majority of Germans, but...
there are exceptions, as per usual, right?
Yeah, exactly. There are big exceptions. So I would also get annoyed with Germans being late. Punctual in an office scenario. It depends a little bit on your company and your job, obviously. But let's say you are expected to be at work at 9. Mm-hmm. If you open the door and enter the building at 9, you're late.
So you have to be there. You have to be working at 9.
You have to be ready to work at 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I would say also that has to do with like the kind of jobs that maybe if you're in customer service,
Absolutely.
or you need to take care of a phone line, or you need to open a shop, right? Like you need to be ready at 9.
That's what I just meant. It really depends on your job. I mean, nowadays, obviously, when work-life balance and everything is becoming bigger and bigger, you've got tons of companies that offer flexible working hours, meaning you can arrive anytime before 11, let's say that. And then obviously it doesn't matter if you arrive at 8, 9, half past 9, 10 past 11, it doesn't matter. But still, when you say punctuality, it's highly expected and frowned upon if you are not punctual for meetings, for example. It's very disrespectful. I mean, you would be wasting the other person's time.
And so would you be also in a meeting like 5 minutes before the meeting starts? Obviously, if your calendar allows it, right?
Yeah, I mean, 5 minutes is more than enough. Yeah.
So punctuality, that is a big thing. So if you are not used to being on time, I think you will get used to being on time. Because also, this leads to my second point, is that Germans are very honest, not only in life, but also at work.
Absolutely.
So if you're late, they have no problem telling you like, yo, you're late, you're wasting our time. Like really, with a serious face. And that's like the feedback that they give you. And it doesn't mean that they're angry or anything. It's just that it's a fact that they say, and for you to improve.
And it's a matter of respect. Yeah, exactly. And the directness at work, I mean, I guess if it happens to you, try to analyze what did they actually mean or talk about it. Don't take it the wrong way, because most of the time we're not mad. We just say what we think and hope that next time it will be better.
Yeah, that's true. So you have to be very, you get used to people being honest to your face. That for me has definitely been a big one. I think I've talked about it in all these culture videos, that honesty in Germany is definitely the best policy. No, I'm kidding. That's just what people say. But honesty in Germany is a thing. And like I said, if you're in a work environment and someone gives you really brutal feedback or honest feedback, it's so interesting because the person is not mad. They're not trying to offend you. It's just, they're stating a fact for you to be able to improve on that.
Exactly. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Embrace it.
That's what they say. Embrace it, right? So honesty is definitely a thing. So thing number 3 on my list here, it's the clear difference between a coworker and a friend. So I don't know if you know this, but or you probably heard, or if you haven't, then you will hear now, that getting or finding German friends or making German friends, it's a complicated process. I like to tell this story that Germans are like coconuts, they're very hard on the outside, but after you have some years of working out inside, they're warm and fuzzy and super friends for life. But it takes years to get to that point. So when you're in a coworker environment, that's what they are, your coworkers.
Yep. So there's a very clear distinguishment, and it takes a lot to go beyond the work environment with a coworker.
Out for a beer or out for a coffee, or even invite someone to your house if they're not at the
that
friend
is a
level.
big step. That is a very big step.
Yeah.
I would say that doesn't usually happen before a year or something like that. Whoa. I mean, it kind of depends again on the setting and how outgoing and open and young and modern also the culture is in the company, obviously. I mean, there are tons of companies where you have social beers and stuff. But, and here comes your story for that, what does it actually mean to share a beer with a colleague?
So I have multiple stories of this, that there's been maybe an event after work, and then I'm sharing some beers or whatever with a German colleague. I have to clarify that it has happened to me only with German people. And I'm having like a blast, we're having a really good conversation, we're laughing, like we're bonding. And I'm like, oh, I really get to know another side of my coworker that I see like so serious in the office sometimes. And then what happens? Monday comes along and I'm super, like, hey, good morning. Morning. Like, did the person forget like that we shared like some beers and we had some fun? And that was it. Like there's, like, in my, I don't know if it's only me, but like I would expect, like if I had this moment with you, I'm going to be friendlier with you now that I say hi than not.
Now, I cannot fully share this experience, but that's maybe because I am German. I don't know.
And maybe your expectations are not there.
Right? I don't know, but I can agree with that. Whenever at work I had like one or two really good friends, and that took some time for them to become friends.
Yeah.
And also that obviously depends on the positions, And sometimes, for example, if I were the manager of that person, like I would wait to become real friends or invite them home or whatever until I'm no longer the manager. It's like very
hierarchical.
Yeah, not hierarchical. It's just you don't want to set off the wrong tone, or you don't want to give false
okay, but
pretense,
I
right?
feel like any boss that invites you to their home is weird. But I mean, like beyond that, if it's a coworker that is kind of like in your same level, it also takes time.
It takes time, absolutely, yes.
So you have to be like cautious if you have German coworkers. There's like you have to kind of feel the vibe. Don't just invite him home out of nowhere because it might Germans might find that weird. But every German is different. I'm not talking for every German, of course, but it's just the experience that I've had that it takes some time and there's some distance that I need to take before you can be.
Yeah, and they're like steps, friends. Like first, like depending on the work culture, I have a beer in the office, like a Feierabend beer, whatever. Yeah. Then have a beer outside the office. That's already a next step.
Whoa. Then maybe have another beer outside the office.
I was going to say, then also if you or the German or whoever, maybe also other people are a part of the group, right? They bring their certain significant others. That's already a big step.
Oh, okay.
And then comes the home, I would say.
Okay, so those are the steps if you want to invite your German coworker to your house. So number 4 that you need to also be aware of is that Germans eat lunch very early compared to other cultures, right?
Yes.
So when I used to work in this big campus, we were 5,000 people working there, and we had a canteen, as the Germans call it, which for me in Guatemala, canteen is where you get drunk, but cantina, But in the canteen, like you would see Germans eating at 11:30, like it's like it would be packed.
I would say 11:30 to 12:30 is like the typical lunch hour, but, and here's the big but, that depends on, again, I mean, I kind of feel like I'm repeating myself here, on the work culture and your job and your working hours, because usually I would say most Germans start work quite early, between 7 and 8, let's say.
I would like to disagree with this because I've had other coworkers that started at 9 and they still go for lunch at 11:30.
Well, I don't know what to say about that, because whenever I would start work at 9, or sometimes even 10, we would go to lunch at like at 1 or 2, sometimes even at 3, which that is a big stretch. I know that. But if you work at 7, if you start work at 7 or 8, then yeah, you're hungry at 11:30 or 12. Plus, and here comes your argument, if you go any later, food's all gone.
Food's all gone. Like in the canteen that I'm talking about, if you would go at 1:30, like at first about 1:30, you would get like the special prices of like, because it's pretty much the rest
the deal
of the
food.
The day. No, like it would be like the end of the of the food. So then you might get like the soft drink for free, for example, because they probably want to sell the rest of the food. But if you would go at 1:30, like from the menu that you see, you might find only one meal still available because everything has been eaten. By the Germans.
That is, if you have a canteen, that will happen to you. Now, I used to have a job where I didn't have a canteen and I had like various restaurants and bistros to choose from on the streets.
Yeah.
So that would happen at places that only open for lunch, that they run out, definitely. But at regular restaurants, obviously, I never had that issue.
Yeah, because they have the food all the time, right?
And I went for lunch at like 2 or 3 sometimes.
Yeah, which that isn't a problem. But if you have a canteen, or if, like usually it's very early that Germans go to lunch. So point number 5 in my list is that you need to be prepared for Germans opening the windows all the time. Not all the time, but quite often. And this specifically in winter, I don't understand this behavior, right? Like you might be in an office area, like, usually it's open offices, so you're sharing like a space with a lot of people. Here comes the typical German guy or girl, I must say, it doesn't not necessarily only guys. They open the window when it's winter, it's freezing cold outside, and they leave.
Yeah.
And they leave, and for some reason, actually when I look back on this, for some reason I am then the only person in that space still working, like freezing my ass off, because I guess every other German leaves with that person.
So you didn't adapt to the Germanism. Yeah, exactly. So why do we do that? It's super easily explained. You need to ventilate the rooms, right? Oxygen is important, and especially in winter, it is a lot more efficient to open not just one window, but all windows completely, ideally on both sides of the building.
There's even a word for this that is called
Durchzug,
which means like through, like
perfect ventilation.
Which means through train.
Yeah, that is if you translate the words literally.
But literally means that the air travels through the room like a train.
It's like through pull. Because Zug is also
through pull. So you have like this window that the air that travels through the room.
Exactly, which obviously gets the air all over the room. And then you have it open for 5 to 10 minutes. In that time, you can go to the toilet, you can get yourself a coffee, you can have a chat with your colleague, whatever. And then you come back, close, and you have a beautifully refreshed room.
Yeah.
Whereas if you would only, like in Germany, it's also actually a funny thing. I've never seen that in many other cultures. Our windows, you have you can pull them open fully, and you can put them just halfway open when you like take the handle and put it all the way up, and then you can pull the window, and it's like, we call it kippen. So it's only like there's only this much space where it's open, which obviously it's super nice to have like a constant breeze, but in winter it is super, I say super very often, it is not convenient at all, because it is very costly, because usually the heaters are underneath the windows, and if you just kippen the window, then the warm air that you pay for goes out immediately, and the air from the window doesn't even make it to the room.
Okay, I need to interrupt you right there. Now, Yvonne could go like a whole lecture why it's necessary to open windows, as you see, and this is how every German thinks, but I'm the fool that stays in the room as the window's open, and I don't understand it, and I just want to close the window.
So lesson learned here, don't be the fool whenever a German opens the window fully in winter
with them.
And gets up, leave with them, exactly. But don't forget to come back.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Which leads to, what point do we have here now? Leads to point number 6, and it's the German fight against AC.
Oh yeah.
So air conditioning is not a thing in homes in Germany. Like, it's like no home that I have ever been has AC.
No.
And there are some offices, not every office, I would say the most modern offices that they have AC. I've had summers that it's been like really, really hot outside and inside, and there is no AC, and there you are like sweating while you're working. That's not cool. However, I also had summers where there's AC, and I find it paradise. But here comes the German, and Ivan's gonna get super triggered by this. The Germans complaining about AC. So Germans believe that you get sick.
It was my turn to talk. It was my turn to talk. So it's my turn to talk. So AC. There are different scenarios. Like you just mentioned, if you cannot open the windows in an office space, you have like a fixed ventilation, and there the AC, well, you got to deal with it because that's all you got. And usually it's totally fine because it's like moderated, right?
But however, there are the Germans that complain all the time every single day about the AC.
Yeah, but it's moderated, and you don't really feel like the draft usually on your neck or something, because it's like that is how the office building gets air throughout the entire year. So it's like a professional system.
I would say like in this one campus that I was, like Germans would still complain about the AC even though if it was moderated.
So then comes a scenario that I was in for several years, where you have a post-installed AC that you can turn on and off manually, and you still have windows to open. And believe me, even with the Germans, my colleagues and I, all Germans, there's a fight every single time. And you have like the side that is pro AC and the side that is con AC. And depending who in the teams, depending who has a stronger personality, that side usually wins. And if that one person or the 2 or 3 or whatever people leave the room, you know what's gonna happen. Either AC turns off or AC turns on. And I mean, I understand it, because there we had the issue especially that like the AC really goes onto your neck, and that's not cool. I mean, yes, it does make you sick. We have multiple issues where that actually happened. And that's my standpoint. I totally agree with that. Yeah, AC makes you sick, especially if it's not cleaned properly. So yes, I rather endure no AC and I'm warm and I adjust my clothing than being in an ice cold obstacle in an ice cold office and getting like drier and drier voice, especially if you have to talk a lot, if you're on the phone all day.
Yeah, see, I can't relate to that. I think AC is our friend, and if I have AC, if I would have AC everywhere that I go in Germany, that would be so nice. especially in summer, because there are some days that it's just like not nice to not have AC. But again, see, I told you she was gonna get triggered, and this is a thing you gotta get used to. If you're in an office and there are Germans, they will complain about the AC or have these fights that she just talked about. Thing number 7, which I think is pretty cool, is that beer is not a taboo at work.
No.
I've had in every single office, I must say, that I've worked for the past years in Germany, there's always been like beer in the fridge. Either because I buy it and then I put it and the boss is okay with it, right? Or other people buy it and they put it, or because the company buys it and it's fine and it's totally okay. There's a German saying that goes like kein Bier vor 4, which is like no beer before 4. And it's actually totally okay if it's a Thursday afternoon, 6 p.m., and you go with some colleagues to the kitchen or whatever, drink a beer, and then go home.
Yep.
The famous Feierabendbier.
Exactly, yeah. I would say it's just, I mean, obviously we're not promoting alcoholism or anything here, but I would say drinking alcohol in public in Germany is a completely normal and accepted thing. It's allowed on the streets. You don't need any brown bag or anything. You don't need to hide it. So that just, expands into the office. Obviously not at your desk if you're working. I mean,
yeah, not if it's like 10 a.m. and you're drinking a beer.
I've had that okay. Like on a carnival day, so that was an exception. Yeah? But in a regular office environment, don't do that. But also don't say no if a colleague offers you a beer, in your last 10 minutes of work, or I don't know what.
That is totally fine.
That's totally okay.
If you drink beer, obviously. If you don't drink alcohol, then don't worry about it, right?
Also wine, whatever floats your boat, no?
Yeah.
Just no hard liquor. That is another story again.
Yeah. So another thing that Germans love to drink at work, and I would say, I don't know if it's the same at home, but coffee. Germans love to have coffee at work. But by love, I mean like 8-10 cups of coffee throughout the workday, which is like crazy. I have a coworker, and he says that he was in an office where he was the only German one, actually. And he realized very soon, oh, wait, I'm kind of like the only person using the coffee machine, because he would drink a cup of coffee every hour or so.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. Personally, I don't drink coffee. I started drinking when I met you, and only coffee from Guatemala, and like this much coffee with this much milk, but that's a different story. Yes, in a German office, the coffee machine is the most important thing, and you see lines depending on how, the ratio between coffee machine and co-workers. And I can agree to that. Like once an hour, at least 3-4 cups a day.
Wow.
And then comes the whole thing, depending, on what kind of coffee drinkers you have. You have like all the different types of milks. And then the question is, do you have like shared milks or not? Because then you have 5 milks in the fridge, and then 3 get bad. And
Okay. It's a thing to drink coffee in the German office. I drink maximum 2 a day. I'm happy with my coffee here at home. I don't usually drink in the office coffee, but a lot of Germans do. I'm sorry, it's just that you could have kept on talking about coffee like all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, thing number 9, which you also have to get used to, is when a German tells you toy, toy, toy. And you're like, you're going to give me a toy or what?
No.
So toy is actually spelled T-O-Y, and it kind of means like good luck, right?
Yeah.
And usually this comes with a knock on a table like toy, toy, toy.
Yeah.
And what does this mean?
I don't know the literal meaning. I honestly don't. It's like you said. It's good luck. It's break a leg. I usually say it not just in a work environment, but also, let's say, before a competition or at school. Also, like when you have to give a presentation or something. So it's more like, hey, I believe in you. You can do it, and break a leg.
Yeah. So if someone says toy, toy, toy to you, you know what they mean. And number 10, which I find the coolest thing on my list about the German work culture, is the work-life balance. I think this is so unique for Germany. I don't know about other cultures. Obviously, I haven't worked everywhere in the world, but I can speak for Germany, and I find that so cool. So Germans are known for being very efficient, very punctual, very honest, as we have spoken in this video. And I think also the reason for that is that when it's time to have Feierabend, which is literally like celebration evening.
Yeah.
They go home or they go to enjoy life.
Yeah.
So it's very common. Let's say if it's a sunny day here in Düsseldorf where we live, and I would say anywhere in Germany really, if it's a sunny day and it's a Thursday at like 5 p.m. or 6, you will see everyone outside enjoying life. Like I used to cycle pre-2020. I used to cycle to work. And if it was a sunny day, you would see like Germans just sitting on a bench, like close to the river. We have a river here nearby, drinking a beer.
River, the biggest river of Germany.
Yeah, we have the Rhine, so it's the biggest, but next to the Rhine, by the bench, enjoying the sunshine while drinking their Feierabend beer.
Yeah.
And I think that is so cool because all the work and all the hard work that gets crunched into the day, at the end you have that moment of like relief and enjoyment. And no boss expects you to pick up your phone at like 8 p.m. or be able to work until like midnight every day. There are exceptions, right? There are times maybe in your job that you might be required to give the extra mile. However, there is this work-life balance that you can really see in the culture.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree, and but I also agree to the exceptions. Again, it depends on your work and your company. The bigger companies have, like I said before, like these flexible working hours where you also clock in every overtime or every hour of overtime that you do, which you can then later take for vacation. Or get paid out. So that is a very cool system.
Or, sorry to interrupt you, additional, let's say you have 10 extra hours for the month, you can leave on a Friday earlier because you deduct from those extra hours that you worked.
Yeah, you can leave earlier or take a Friday off,
Yeah.
whichever, is better for you. However, not every company has that. And obviously in some jobs, we also are hardworking and we do overtime and not always go out and drink. But, and that's funny because when we just started dating, you always say like, the Germans are like little ants, the moment the sun comes out, they just come out of their little hole and flood the streets. And I must agree. And that's maybe because, first of all, we don't have a Mediterranean climate. It's not always warm and sunny. So when it is sunny, we really want to make the most of it. And yes, work-life balance. I would say the majority of us believes in working for life and not living for work. Again, there are exceptions.
Of course, yeah.
But I would say that is the general way of seeing it.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, it's not like just when it's sunny outside then Germans leave on time. Obviously, they also leave on time to go to their sports club or to go home to be with their kids or to pick the kids from the school or kindergarten. Like, not only to enjoy sunshine, but in general, work ends, life begins. And it's not necessarily at midnight.
Yep.
So I find that super cool. So I really hope that these 10 things that we talked about in this video help you to get used to the German work culture if you're moving to Germany and you found a job here. So if you like this kind of content, make sure to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell and like it, as Yvonne says there. Yeah, and we hope to see you next time.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
Cheers.